Good morning, friends. Welcome to Scholar IAS Current Affairs classes. Today, we are going to look into January 18th current affairs. First issue is with respect to regulating big tech companies. Relevance is that it could be asked in mains portion with respect to economic development. First, we need to know what is big tech. Big tech is nothing but few gigantic technological companies that is often seen as controlling the internet now. They may include Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Instagram, and WhatsApp. All these companies are big tech companies that they are controlling the internet. And these big tech companies is a big problem right now because they have seen to accumulate vast underregulated powers despite the benefits that they are providing to the people. So it is high time that these big tech companies should be regulated by the countries. So what are the benefits of the big tech company? For example, let us take Twitter or Facebook. These platforms has given us immense power to transact, express ourselves, seek out information, and consume entertainment. Also that social media has democratized communications and weakened the traditional powers of traditional media. So basically, before the advent of the social media, the editors in the traditional newspapers had immense power in altering the public opinion. But now the social media is bringing out a democratic form of media where these traditional power centers are weakened. Another one benefit is that it brings doorsteps delivery of extraordinary range of goods. Why it is extraordinary range of good? Right now, even medicine we can get at our doorstep, and we are also using drones to get the items, or drones is used for the delivery. So now the technology have been leapfrogged to a different extent that literally any product can be accessed through doorstep delivery. Also that we have seen that during the COVID pandemic, big tech companies have enabled us to conduct our lives very normally. This is because of the technological ability that these big tech companies was possessing. So having seen the benefit, it is time to see the problems of the big tech companies. One big issue with respect to big tech companies is acquisition. These big tech companies try to acquire small, fast growing and innovative startups so that these startups don't become a competition to them. So this is the strategy that the big tech companies are using. Second is that these big tech companies possess extraordinary amount of data on individuals. So these data have to be safeguarded properly and they should not be sold to anybody. Privacy should not be violated. So all these problems are there with respect to handling data of the individuals. As I've said, big tech barons can summon this information and sell it to whoever they want, and we will never know whom they are selling and how they are accessing the information, what are the information with them. All these things we never know. Other than that, while they sell these data to other people, this is happening outside the country. As a result, even the country's administration does not have tax advantage. That is, these big tech companies do not provide any tax or do not pay any tax for the transactions that was happening with respect to data. So what are the problems of social media specifically? This social media platform has the power to shape narratives and therefore incite public behavior. For example, before a few years, we have seen that there's a mass exodus of people from Northeast in Bangalore because of the social media fake news. This was happening. So this has the potential to spread very fast, even if it is a rumor or even if it is for some kind of an agitation. The social media platform is so conducive to spread whatever news that is put in. Second is that the social media platform is a dangerous force multiplier for fomenting hate and violence. We have seen in many cases social media is a main organizing platform for this kind of hate and violence. Third is that these platforms have power to silence opinions. So initially social media was a kind of democratic aspect where each and every person can express their views. But nowadays social media is also involved in censorship. Many social medias are involved in censorship for good reasons, but there are some social medias who have been paid by certain entities so that these social media regulators or the social media acts as a regulator or censor to silence certain opinions. So what are the specific problems with respect to e-commerce? First is these platforms have the ability to make or break millions of small merchants. These small merchants have been doing independent business with their limited number of customers. Once these e-commerce people have come into the market, these small number of customers, they have choice of choosing the product from the website, and also that the price of the product is very less. As a result, these customers shift to the e-commerce e-commerce platform providers. As a result, these small farmers lose these customers. Second, their pricing and promotion decisions can be managed subtly to favor some merchants and their own private products. If you look at in any of the e-commerce platforms, we have seen many traders are involved in it, but their pricing and promotion decisions subtly favor certain merchants who are paying them. So this is a serious problem with respect to fair competition. And third is that once the platform announces certain promotional schemes, for example, we would have seen in Amazon or Flipkart, certain days announced as a promotional day where the products are sold at a discount. Because of these deep discounts, other small merchants lose out their business. And this kind of deep discounts are only possible because of their financial clout. So this is a kind of an unfair competition that is running in the market. So government has really looked into the problem and is in the process of devising a proper rules for e-commerce and regulation of e-commerce. So how to regulate these big tech companies? First is fair market should be enabled. This can be done by scrutiny through Competition Commission of India. So Competition Commission of India should look into bundling of different products, acquisition of competitors, predatory pricing and exclusive arrangements with trade. All these should be looked into by the Competition Commission of India, and the companies which are deviating from the standards should be really regulated by the Competition Commission of India. Second aspect with respect to regulating these big tech companies are providing for taxation. These big tech companies have to be taxed for the transactions they are making in India. So for which we need to have a separate authority to look into what are the types of transactions and what are the profits and gains and how they can be taxed. All these things have to be looked into so that we tax these big tech companies and use it for the advantage of the public goods. Third, data protection. These big tech companies have immense data. As a result, data localization and data sovereignty becomes a key issue here. So, Joint Parliamentary Committee right now is working on the data protection bill, and in this, it is evaluating the problems of the big tech companies and how to handle and regulate these companies with respect to privacy and data security. Fourth is we have to make people aware of their rights, provide them rights, and at the same time we have to limit their rights as per the constitution. For example, Facebook is a virtual medium where we are trying to express ourselves. So it is like the same restrictions which are applicable in the real world have to be applicable in the virtual world also. So it is a high time that government looks into the issue of freedom of expression with respect to social media platforms and enable rights of individuals who are using the platforms to provide their expression. But at the same time, government has to enact laws to set the platform in such a way that limitations of Article 19.2 will exist even inside the virtual platform or social media platform. So, how is the framework for regulation should be? Our current legal and technical framework has to evolve to regulate all these emerging big tech powers. Framework for regulation must be integrated, flexible, and dynamic to stay ahead of fast evolving technologies. For example, if our framework is pretty static and the market is very dynamic, either the market will not obey the framework or the framework will hinder the market flow. In both cases, it is a negative fallout. So the framework should be dynamic and should be with the pace of the market growth so that we can derive benefit out of it by generating proper tax money. Second is that there is a need to ensure that we need to close gaps in Telegraph Act, TROY Act, so that on one end we encourage the growth of these businesses and at the other end we regulate them properly in such a way that the revenue generated by them is useful for the public interest. So what is the way forward? Right now, India is the largest world's largest democracy, and soon it will become the largest digital nation, surpassing China. And technology-driven economic activities will soon be close to fifth of our economy. So both cases provides an immense supportive argument to regulate these big tech companies so that we will not be at the losing end when we are becoming the largest digital nation. So it is high time that these big tech companies should be regulated to suit our national interest. Second issue is with respect to agri-food policy. This particular topic is important with respect to GS3 mains economic development part. So this particular essay argues that a new agricultural food policy should be enacted so that two objectives are satisfied. One objective is food security and the other objective is to improve the agricultural income. Such a policy should look into medium and long-term problems in India and should not be myopic in nature. So why there should be a need for medium and long-term agri-food policy? UN population projection 2009 indicates that India will be the most populous country by 2027. By 2030, India will have 60 crore people living in urban areas demanding food from the hinterlands. On top of that, the situation of agriculture is also worsening because agricultural land is only average agricultural holding size is only 1 hectare. So because of this fragmentation of agricultural land, it results in less productivity. On top of that, agriculture holds 42% of the India's workforce. This creates huge stress on the land as well as it creates huge demand of resources from the cultivable land and water. So what are the touchstones that the agricultural policy must have? Which means what are the ingredients that the agricultural policy must have? It should be able to produce enough food, feed, fiber for its large population. This is the first, which is food security. Second, it should do in such a manner that it protects the environment. So this policy should be sustainable in nature, embracing the environmental limitations and at the same time achieving higher production with global competitiveness. Third, that it should enable seamless movement of food from farm to the fork, keeping marketing cost and food loss at very low. Fourth is consumers should get safe and nutritious food at the affordable prices. So when you look at these 4 points, one thing is very clear. This particular agri-food policy have to focus on the supply side as well as on the demand side. In the supply side, it has to streamline the commercialization of agriculture. It has to streamline the production, productivity, commercialization, marketing. On the demand side, it has to improve the nutritious nature of the food as well as the quality of the food, and it has to be given at an affordable price. So this is the logic. So how to improve the farmers' income using this policy? Because we have already set the target of doubling the farmers' income. So any policy with respect to agriculture should be focused towards that objective. So how to improve the farmers' income using this policy? First, we have to improve the access. A farmer has to be given easy access to the best technologies and best markets in the country. For best technology, we having research centers which are working on it. ICAR is an example. And for best markets, we have NAM, where many markets in India are connected through NAM, and a farmer can sell his product produce in any region in the country or even abroad. Second, the best agri policy should focus on investing in R&D, extension services, and irrigation facilities. To quote it in facts, at least 1% of the agri GDP have to be spent in agri R&D and extension. So the accountability of R&D institutions should be strengthened in such a way that the evaluation of their work should be based on the outcome, how much research they have produced, and what are the varieties they have done, and what are the varieties they have improved in such a way that it consumes less water. So all these things have to be outcome based and the institution have to be strengthened. So where did India fail so far in developing the agriculture? First problem is with respect to subsidized input price policy. Even if it is power or water or fertilizer, we have a subsidized input price. As a result, we are becoming incapable of protecting, or we have the inability to protect natural resources such as water and soil. Second, free electricity for pumping waters groundwater has resulted in pumping more groundwater, resulting in depletion of groundwater levels and its quality in Punjab and Haryana. Third is MSP FRP policy for paddy, wheat, sugarcane lead to excessive production of these three crops, because this MSP and FRP are incentivizing farmers to produce these three crops so that they'll be ensured some minimal income. So this particular policy have negative repercussions. For example, sugar and wheat are being produced at prices higher than the global prices because MSP is already set. So as a result, any market price will be more than the MSP or FRP. As a result, it becomes totally uncompetitive in the global market. Also, another repercussion is excessive stock of wheat and rice is staying in the FCI godowns. As a result, it is increasing the cost of storage for the FCI. Third, the export of rice results in indirect export of massive amounts of precious water. So whatever may be a product that is produced in the country, it has repercussions or usage of certain water. So with respect to rice, rice consumes more amount of water. So exporting rice indirectly means that exporting water. Already we see that water is a precious commodity in India. It is decreasing day by day. Groundwaters are getting depleted, and because of the global warming, the natural reservoirs are not working well. As a result, we cannot get proper water. So all these problems are there. On top of that, we also have water pollution. So water is becoming a scarce resource. In this scenario, exporting rice means exporting water. So one more issue where we have failed is poor logistics, low investments in supply lines, and high margins of the intermediaries really complicate the agri scenario. So these are the problems that really needs to be addressed. So what needs to be done on the consumption front? So far we have focused on food security. Now it is time to focus on the nutritional security. So the focus should shift from food security to nutrition security. Second, women's education, immunization, sanitation, providing nutritious food. All these things have to be done on war footing. Third, there is a great need to reduce the subsidy by providing people with the choice to opt for cash equivalent to MSP plus 25%. So this particular cash equivalence to MSP will reduce the procurement and transportation incidentals, because procurement and transportation incidentals costs 40% of the FCI charge. So this particular 40% of the charge would be reduced because of the option of cash equivalent to MSP. Third, setting agri-food policy on a demand-driven approach, protecting sustainability, efficiency in production, marketing, and giving consumers more choice for nutritious food at the affordable price should be the parameter for the future in front of us. Thank you. That's all we have for you today. For more videos and creative content, please visit www.scholar.com. Thank you.